right on our number in terms of 11.3 launch angle, tick under 3,000 or under 3,100 spin. If you told me I could have that for the rest of my life, I wouldn't even look at the other two. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. We are trying to finalize this golf bag of mine. We all know I've got commitment issues when it comes to golf clubs. No more so than when it comes to the second longest club in the bag. The 3-wood, the mini driver, whatever you want to call that, I think it's been like a revolving door for the last few months trying to figure that one out, and it has been that way for a while. In all honesty, I'm not alone. Many of you struggle with that one. Many players at the top of this game struggle with that one. That's why you see scenarios like Henrik Stenson being stuck with that one that he just couldn't get out of his bag. He didn't want to get it out of his bag for the longest time because he just knew that under the gun, off the tee, off the turf, he could hit that club. And that is the challenge of this, call it, secondary wood in the bag, is that it has to be more versatile than the driver. The driver, you can tee it up, you're never really thinking of it, being certainly off the turf. For some people, they may like that one, but it's a bit of a specialty shot. So this second club or second wood that we carry has a lot of value in that department. So I want to explore that today with your help and get your thoughts on it. I'd love to hear what you guys think. We'll sort of supply the data, and I want to hear you guys sort of debate it from your point of view. I think it's always really fascinating to hear different people's opinion as to what should be the club and what flight and what spin, launch, all that sort of stuff, the versatility, ultimately at the end of the day. So as of right now, the position, or as of recent times, the position has been occupied by the brand new Titleist GT2 13 degrees of loft, 43.5 inches in length, a club that is definitely smaller and more versatile than other mini drivers if you want that dual versatility of the tee and the turf. For some people who like just the secondary tee option, the going with the bigger head from some of the other manufacturers has been more of a choice for them. And actually Titleist for themselves have a tour model that is slightly bigger. It's called a GT2 Plus that is only available on the tour trucks. So we're going to start off with that one. We're going to introduce the other two options that I've been thinking about. Certainly last year's GT2 3-wood that was in the bag prior to this one, I think. And it's at 13.5 degrees of loft, but really deep sort of CG, further back CG with a bigger head footprint. Launches really, really easily, but with the 13 degrees of loft, 13.5 degrees of loft gives you lots of ball speed. And as always is the case with these things, there's always an old flame. There's always a club that just, you keep going back to, it draws you back, it just looks at you certain ways and you just keep coming back to it. And that's how I feel about the SIM2, especially the Rocket model. It truly can be that Rocket if you turn it over, and I'll demonstrate a little bit of why I've just been in love with this thing for years. Tensy orange shaft in there, just a great, great option. But a choice has to be made. I can't carry all three of them. So let's dive in there and let's start picking the bones out of this. All right, guys, starting off GT2 43.5 degrees, sorry, 43.5 inches in length. It has a 3-wood shaft in it. I'm not sure if many people know that. It's the exact same length shaft as when I put it in the GT2 Fairway that plays 43 inches. It's just it has a slightly longer neck, half-inch longer neck that accommodates the 3-wood shaft to give it that extra length. So really like that Titleist have done that, because it just means that people who have a few options when it comes to fairway wood shafts can plug those in if they just want to kind of get the head and try some of the shafts that they've already invested in, which I think is really smart. All right, let's hit it from the turf to start with. Even though it has a deeper head, I think this one's been really nicely designed, and it's not that challenging to get up in there. I think in order to sort of prove its worth, a 3-wood has to be launching around 11.5 or more. Any less than that is going to be coming in like a bit of a flat bullet. So I want to make sure that my 3-wood can launch a little bit. Let's see. Right on our number in terms of 11.3 launch angle, tick under 3,000 or under 3,100 spin. If you told me I could have that for the rest of my life, I wouldn't even look at the other two. That is perfect in terms of numbers for me in as a secondary wood. Obviously, given the flight being very neutral too. Okay, not as good of a contact, but let's see. That's done quite nicely. Yeah, lost a little bit of carry. Bit of that one that's been in the bag recently for me, but that kind of like stuck one, sneaking out to the right. Not bad. What we're seeing, the first one was really good, like we said, but we're struggling to get that launch angle really into that sweet spot windows, averaging 10.7. Not quite there yet where we talked about having it. I do think that's the deeper profile of the head. I think when we get the tee and get the chance to elevate the golf ball, it maybe makes it a little bit easier, but we're kind of catching low in the head and we're probably tilting the head down a little bit, which is going to be contributing to the lower launch. Good, really good. There's the launch back into that nice window. That thing's going to fly really good. Probably 256-ish. Launch is good, spin's good. Yeah, when it's good, it's good. You know, maybe it's just up to me to do my part. You know, the two swings I made, shot 1, shot 5, were really quite good. I'd say the 2 misses in between that, other than the one that went short right, that was obviously the one I didn't like. I got away with the other ones, which is not too big of an issue. But yeah, pretty good showing by the GT280. Let's move into the GT2. All right, into the traditional 3-wood. Well, traditional in the head size, it's obviously lower loft. I do like a stronger fairway wood, 13.5 on this one, A1 setting. Good showing by the GT2, as we said, just that one that kind of went a little bit short right. It wasn't a good strike, it wasn't a good swing, but at the end of the day, you know, I have been struggling with this, so I'm as interested in those ones as I am in the good ones, to be honest. All right, let's have a look, GT2. Yeah, a little bit down the left side, wasn't bad though. Bad pulley. I tell you, I know that's flown quite straight and neutral. I don't like that flight. That's the like high, soft, I mean 42 yards, convert that into 126 feet. That's not it for me. I would rather it was flatter and hotter than soft and spinny. That's why I carry a 5-wood, to be honest. I've got that in a different club. I don't need that from 3-wood. Better contact, up the head slightly. You know, you see tour players testing golf clubs and they kind of hit the one shot they don't want to hit and they just pass it off. I would have done that. If I was in a range right now and I'm with a tour rep and we're working through some clubs to me, I would have passed them this and went, nah, this isn't it. And the minute I see that, and I know it's me, but I'm going to do that in the golf course, and I cannot do that if I've got a forced carry and it's going to just puff up like that, especially into a little wind or something. I do think the dispersion with this one is obviously pretty solid. You know, the one outlier with the GT280 that I obviously didn't like, but let's have one more. It's just got that weak one in it, isn't it? All right. Back with the old flame. Let's see how this is. Totally different construction. I would say even the opposite construction to the GT280 in that the tall head pulls the centre of gravity up, right, as a virtue of just having a taller face. What you get with these old school, if you want to call them that now, they're not that old school really, but this heavy tungsten weight plate at the bottom, this V-sole that came in this club, it had a really pulled the centre of gravity down, and if anything, you got really low spin rate. So you could launch it high, but had low spin. I think that's what I've always loved about it, versus using a club like the GT280 off the deck that has a much taller face, so you'll kind of catch it low in the face, and you'll always have the head tilting down. It's almost like this was the opposite. You know, you hit it in the middle of the club head, but because the centre of gravity is so low, even the middle of the club head acted like a slightly high strike, which tilts the head up and gives you that high launch, low spin. So I think that's why I've always gravitated towards a head like this. Let's take a look. So good. So good. Launch is up, spin is down, ball speed's great. Great. Wasn't the best, but it's controlled the spin so nicely. 2800 on quad there. That's the exact one I was talking about, where you can miss this one, and it just goes further rather than shorter. It's obviously a spin reduction that you get from slightly higher in the head. Oh my God. This thing just has something about it. I don't even know. I don't know how it can be so fast. But like, it just has a different gear. Like, we talk about a mini driver. Why am I carrying a mini driver? Because at times I don't feel comfortable with my own driver. There's times that I haven't been as fast as 158 ball speed with my own driver recently, never mind doing it with a fairway wood. Let's have a little look at the table just to sort of do a little comparison of the first off the tee round. Really see towards the end there the confidence sort of growing with the SIM2 titanium. Started to get faster, launch and spin in that better window. GT2 launch angle was more like what we wanted, but it just didn't come with the spin rate that I was looking for. Yeah, I don't like it when I start getting 4,000. As I say, I carry a 5 wood, it's actually a short 17 degree, so a 7 wood length, 17 degrees that I can hit that shot with. I'm really looking for that distance. If I thought I could get something close to 260 in terms of the carry distance out of it, that would be a dream for me. Okay, let's hit a few shots off the tee. Let's do that comparison now. All right, we've moved on. GT2 hasn't made the cut. Executive decision. Mr. Cody behind the camera there says, it's not going in the bag. So, you know, he's the one who's got to suffer watching me hit them. And if he thinks so, he's also a little bit biased because he is a fellow SIM2 titanium user. So there is a little bit of bias in this test. But I've went with the GT280. I've made a couple of adjustments. I've moved that heavy weight up to the front. I've moved it from A1 to D1, so from 13 degrees of loft down to 12.25, just to try and get closer to what I think the numbers were looking like to be really, really good off that SIM2, lower spin rate, quicker ball speeds. But it's going to be interesting. I don't know if this can make up the difference in the gap. That ball speed, they're starting to climb. The last couple, 156, 158, that's all confidence. That's not that club is engineered so much better than any of the other ones. That's purely just one man and his confidence starting to grow together, which is exactly what we want. All right, GT280. Off a slight tee, number 2 tee for those of you who use bird tees. Quite nice. I will say this looks much more appealing on this little tee than it did off the ground. Has a much more inviting look to it. Or draws. Very consistent, this thing. Away with that one. Remarkably consistent with this. Spin rate, ball speed, launch angle, standard deviation is going to be insanely good off of this one. Kind of just done the same thing 5 times in a row. Fourth swing I put on it was a bit crap, but the other 4 were pretty decent, to be honest, and gave me some really nice little draws. I think that performed really, really good there. Similar to the one I hit with the GT2, it leaked a little bit to the right. It's actually pretty good though. Bit thin. Handled it well. Still carried just a tick under 250. 4.6. All right, guys, let's wrap with looking at just the SIM2 and the GT280 off the ground. An advantage, as we said, toward the SIM, it's just constructed for exactly this role, which is to be hit off of obviously a tight lie. GT280 is not going to be, that club. I will say that's why I carry the 5 wood, though, because I'm not really going to hit too many fairway woods from 250 yards, if I'm being truthful. So I do have to keep that in mind. It probably isn't really my go-to to hit a club from 260 yards out off, trying to hit the green. So let's go to off the tee. So a much more fair contest in the sense of the numbers being more evenly distributed. I will say having hit the ease of use factor, and it's always a factor, to be honest. The GT280 won hands down on the ease of use factor. Just kind of felt like I was just shelling them out there, 250 yards, going out to about 270, really, really easily. That couple it turned over a little bit, but I don't mind that at all. It's my kind of favoured flight. The SIM2, in actual fact, we've got a sort of a range that we say anything, 25 yards left or right of centre, giving us 50 yards to hit into. We think the data's pretty good off of that. If we're hitting outside of that, the data's probably not very good. It's either a bit spinny out to the right or a bit hooky low left. We hit a few low left with the SIM2, especially early on in the first couple of shots. So I would want to, I'm going to lead myself into more testing here, but I would like to give the SIM2 another chance, but go with a slightly heavier shaft and see how it stands up. I used to use Tensei 1K white in it, and that was really the shaft of choice. I must have had a 1K in it at some orange in it at some point. towards the end of its life, and is what had it in when I pulled out the garage this morning. But yeah, I think the numbers, especially if I go back to off the deck, the SIM2 was so good. It really was. It was easy to hit off the ground, and it gave me that flight. I don't love seeing that sort of puffy, spinny one. Even when you see the two trajectories, I'd rather it came out a bit hot and flat, like the SIM2, rather than kind of being out there and soft. I get no confidence from a golf ball that's going out there and just kind of hovering and just, you know, not really going out there with any heat behind it. So I think the winner in the test is, with an asterisk next to it, the SIM2. You can't help but see the shots, especially off the deck, and see how much more this had in the locker. So I'm going to explore this one back into the Rocket head for a little bit and go with a slightly heavier shaft in it and see where that leads me. I think that could be pretty much exactly what I'm looking for, but a little bit of testing and we will see, guys. Let us know. As we said, we wanted to hear your thoughts on it. Would you look at how I even hit the GT2 in that high or softer flight and go, well, what's wrong with that? You're going to have challenging lies. The ball's sitting down a little bit. You're going to want that ease of launch. Maybe that's something that would be thought of. I didn't feel that way today. I certainly, you know, when I hit it good, I thought it was going too high, and 125 feet in the air with a 3-wood is not what I'm looking for, especially off the ground. Even off the tee, to be honest, I'm trying to probably get it coming out there a little bit flatter and that squeezier than that. I feel like the SIM2, by the head profile, the face depth alone, makes me feel like I can squeeze it that little bit more than sort of the GT280. But yeah, that's how I feel about it today. Tomorrow, my bipolar club changing nature, I could wake up and feel completely different about it. But today, that's what I'm thinking. It's a SIM2, slightly heavier shaft. We're going to give that a crack for a few weeks anyway, see how we do. All right, love to hear from you guys. Let us know in the comments what you think. Which club would you choose? Are we missing out some other clubs that we've tried in the channel that you go, remember how good you hit that one? What about introducing that one? Happy to hear that too. All right, guys, stay tuned for more. We'll see you again soon.